Hey guys, quick update, back on site today, and we are running out of time.
Hi, I'm Ramsin Khachi. I'm the founder and principal of Khachi Design Build and Stone Lab Surfaces. I've been in the design and construction industry for over 25 years. I've decided to do an entire series around my own personal real estate investment. I'll be taking a builder's custom-like home and then taking it to an entirely new level.
Welcome to Bespoke in the Burbs. The closing on this house is coming up, and now everything seems to be happening in these last 3 weeks of construction. So let me tell you what's going on. The painters are moved on, that's good. They did all the trim and they did all the ceilings. The walls are left. Now we started painting some of the walls, but we had to stop because the hardwood floor guys showed up and they want the house clean and empty so that they can do their hardwood floors, which is fine with me. So I'm gonna go through some of the details with Ramsin. That's the guy's name, Ramsin, S-O-N. Anyways, he's my buddy now. We're gonna go through some of the details, figure out the details on the hardwood, but I wanna point out a couple of things. The front porch. I didn't want to do aluminum siding on the ceiling of the porch, and because the timeline is tight, I actually got permission to come in here and do this ceiling myself. I was here on the weekend. I clad it all with the composite material. It's not quite done yet, but all the panels are done. I did a recessed panel detail on the ceiling, got it ready for the stucco molding on the outside so that all the tolerances are perfect. Now I've got to finish caulking and sanding all the joints and it'll be ready for paint. Let's look at the garage, because what they did in the garage already is they drywalled it. So I had Newmar come in, Mario had Newmar come in, they drywalled the garage. I asked them to do a few things a little bit different in here. The fact that we put all the wires inside the walls is fantastic because now they're coming out in all the right locations. So let me point out a couple of things that are really important when it comes to the garage. We're gonna do an epoxy type floor. You're gonna see what that's gonna be later, but this is gonna lead into how everything's gonna translate into the walls. And then most importantly, because I wanna be able to wash this floor out without having to worry about damaging walls, it's important to think ahead. So where's the water gonna go? We're gonna do an epoxy floor down here, then I'm going to tile the walls all the way up, probably about 3 feet up off the floor. That tile is gonna end at this edge. I had them put a plastic J-mold here that protects the edge of the drywall. Why? Because if I bring the tile here, I don't have room to return it. I don't have a way of sealing this corner. The water will absorb into the drywall, it'll crumble, and everything will fall off. So this plastic edge protects the drywall. The tile goes right over top of it. We put a caulking line here, caulking line in between there. The weather stripping goes on the inside, the door comes in, everything is sealed. I can wash this floor all I want and that area will not get damaged. You can see the rest is drywalled, corner beads are on. The next step is plastering all these walls, then we're gonna do the finishing inside. Let's go inside and see what the details are that we have to think about with regards to the hardwood floor. Okay, all the hardwood is in here, so let's talk about hardwood. We've got piles of it throughout the house. This vintage hardwood from Vintage Flooring, hand scraped, Gotham color. It's gonna look spectacular, and what's really gonna set it off is those vents that Ed from Milton Hardwood had made for me. They're gonna blend in beautifully. They were actually cut out of this material, if you remember, so it's gonna blend in seamlessly. It's gonna look excellent. So let's talk about what to consider when it comes to hardwood. The direction of the wood is critical, just really in the room, from an aesthetic perspective and also from the structural aspect of things. So it's always best to run the hardwood against the direction of the joists. That creates kind of a lock in the floor and makes it more structurally stable. Probably more important to custom finished floors because you don't want any movement that will actually crack the joints. These are pre-finished, so they give a little more, but even still, it's nice to go against the joists, across the direction of the joints if you can. In the dining room, what I want to do is create a border on the outside. The reason I'm not going to do anything really spectacular on the inner field, which is underneath the table, is simply because it's underneath the table. You're not going to see it. Once you put a rug down to do a herringbone or anything like that, it just simply disappears under that rug and it's not worth the money. But I'm going to do an interesting border. I'm going to miter the corners and then I'm going to run the center field straight. And that will be interesting enough. Again, there's a lot happening in this dining room, so we don't want to overdo all the details. But let's go into this area and talk about the main area, which is the kitchen and family room. So in here, the most obvious way to run the floor is lengthwise. Another thing you want to consider is the direction the light comes in. Sometimes when you're doing a custom finish where we sand on site and finish on site, and the light comes in the window on one side, it'll accentuate any undulations in the floor. So you want to keep that in mind as well. Again, this is hand scraped, it's pre-finished, so it's a lot more forgiving. The light coming in that way is okay. What I want is the floors to run the length of the room, and it works out perfect because the joists are running this way, the floors are going to run that way, and it's going to be simple. I love the floor being consistent throughout the entire house. Don't mix your floors up, it looks like a disaster. So one type of hardwood and that's it. Don't mix it up. But let's talk about the powder room. So in the powder room, there's one simple detail but takes a lot of thought because there's a few pieces that have to come together. We're actually doing a border. Let me grab this tile, and we are inserting this tile in the center of the room, just a rectangle in the center. So this hardwood is going to translate into that space, carry around as a border, but then to complicate things further, we've got a vent in here. So let me grab the vent here, and this integrated vent has to fit into the border on the outside. You'll see how it all comes together, but dimensions are critical here. Now, one thing that Ramsin did for me is that he actually remembered that in one of the other houses, he's using the same floor but in a 10-inch wide plank, and he's got a few pieces left. So he's going to use those as the border so he doesn't have to use multiple pieces to build that space up. Because we got about a 7.5-inch border. Our planks are 5-inch, so he'd have to cut a strip. Instead, he'll use that 10-inch. It'll fit beautifully. It'll blend in nice. When it's done, you'll see it is going to look gorgeous. And one last bit of detail I want to point out is that when you're doing a fireplace, it's always nice, whether it's a real fireplace or not. Now, it's a real fireplace. If it's a real fireplace, you have to include a hearth. It's code. But this is a gas-burning fireplace. It's an insert, zero tolerance, or zero clearance. So having a hearth is not mandatory, but it makes it look more authentic. So I've asked him to leave an area clear for me. It's going to be 66 by 16 wide. The important aspect here is I want that hearth to be almost flush with the hardwood. That way it doesn't protrude into the room, it doesn't push our furniture out. It gives you a little more tolerance for decorating the room and bringing furniture closer to the fireplace area. And it's going to get set in. So he's going to drop a border, leave an area clear. We're going to get the stone cut. I'm going to bevel the edge just a 1/4 inch so it sits up just slightly and it sits in nicely, and it really defines that fireplace and sets it off because it blends in nicely to the floor. All these details are so critical to think of ahead of time. Once it's all done, it's impossible to deal with. So, I've gone through all this stuff. The guys are working upstairs. And one thing I love about these guys, they're taking the time to sand all these joints. They're taking the time to chisel out all the mortar around the corners. They're cleaning it up nicely, and that's going to result in an amazing installation. So I'm going to let Milton Hardwood go on with their stuff. I'm out of here, and we're going to wait till the next phase.
Hey guys, welcome to a week of stress. It's a crazy week. So much happening. Let's talk about the outside right off the bat. The house is definitely taking shape. They've started installing the stucco moldings. I actually had a talk with the stucco guys. There's some details that I wanted to be specific about, and they were kind enough to oblige. So where the stucco ends, they've returned it nicely so you get that nice finished end. They've carried it around the house, and it's really starting to complete the look on the exterior. We still have to deal with the columns at the front. That's coming up next, but it's a disaster. There's so much stuff here. So hopefully they'll get this cleared out, but the garage is getting done. It's getting taped right now. It's drywalled, and there is a heck of a lot happening inside. So I want to get inside because Downsview has started doing the kitchen install. That's going well. I want to see how far they've gotten. Rob's guys have installed the tiles in the powder room, which I'm sure look amazing. I want to take a look at that. But we're behind on the finishes on the painting. And just to help out a little bit, I've had Dane, my son, in here sanding the doors before the guys spray the doors, just to make it look a little bit better and prep them, and to take some of the load off Mario's guys. And the phone does not stop ringing. So let's go inside and take a look. Call me anytime. Okay. I was up at Fernbrook at the head office in Woodbridge, so it took me a long time to get back. This needs to be centered there. Wherever the center is, we center it. And then afterwards, if I have to, I put a panel nicely. It's okay, I make the holes nice and tight. I can do that. If you leave me some extra material, I can do that. It looks good. It's a nice kitchen.
It's a nice kitchen.
Beautiful.
I know.
Nice.
It looks good, let me tell you. Guys, cut a rectangle.
Yeah, I know. We put this on top.
We cut a rectangle, that way you can move it
Yeah.
easy. It's not too big.
No, no.
Once it's cut, then move it to where you want, and then afterwards we take our time and put that
Yeah.
nicely, okay? That's it, you know? How's it going, okay? Is that gonna be a problem up there, finishing up to that metal trim? No? You okay?
Should be painted to match this, the one over here.
We can do that, we can paint it, I'm just worried.
Because that
about-
way, you know, you could.
It may look
caulk this
unfinished.
a little better.
Yeah.
and
I
make
can
it
caulk
better,
that,
right?
but I was thinking I would do it after you paper it, but the thing is, it may look unfinished if the paper goes up to it there, and then it doesn't return. When you're done, we'll take a look at it and see how it finishes, okay? Make a pit stop. Look at the floor tile. I asked the guys not to grout this tile, and there's a reason for that. So you've got wood on either side, you don't have a big grout line, and grout doesn't compress, so it can't expand and contract with the wood. So I asked them not to grout it. I'm gonna pick up some siliconized grout. The Mapai stuff is flexible, so it's got silicone in it and it's got sand in it, so it looks like grout, but it flexes. So I'm gonna take my time and fill all these gaps after with that, wipe it clean, and then that way it'll never crack and fall out. It's part of the finishing details that I wanna make sure I pay attention to, because they drive me nuts after. Let's go to the basement and see what's going on. How you doing?
Good.
What's happening?
Yeah, just putting walls.
Chaos?
A little bit. Just a little bit. You might want to have somebody pass around that again.
How bad is it?
Up in the corner is really bad. That's wet, but if you run your hand in there, it really indents really bad.
Let me see if they have some compound. Oh, you do?
Yeah, because I just came from Fanconi.
Is it here?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Open
You have
the
plaster tools?
Yep.
Okay. See, everything works out. All right. No, okay, how many 69 goes to where? Oh, they send it this size, that's it.
It's supposed to be.
Where's the drawing? And that's wrong too. That can't come out, it's gonna go in. This is drawn wrong. It's gonna go back, right? So if you're gonna have the filler here, if you're gonna get the panels here, then you're gonna go back, right? This is a filler, this is a column. These are columns, not
Yeah,
fillers.
columns,
These are
columns.
columns.
Yes.
How wide are your columns? Are they thicker than 7.5?
No, this one is 7.5,
Yeah.
but this one is 10. I think it's 10 point something.
Okay, so you make them both almost 7.5, okay? They made it bigger so you can scribe it. But now these have to be bigger. That's the column? No. 7.5, 7.5. It's these ones here. It's number 50. 11, 12, 13. 8, 9, number 8. You don't have that? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13?
Wow.
I
Really?
haven't seen anything. Let me.
It's this color, eh?
My glass?
You have 11 and 12, which is there.
We need 8.
We want to make sure that number 8 and number 9 are wide. Number 10, 8 and 10 are wide, which is here. You getting this? It's stressful. Yeah, that's a problem. And this is coming out, which from here, that's going to be a problem over there. That's not good. So we have to go back. We have to go back.
With this?
So, do you have a panel?
I don't know if I have a toolkit or something with it.
Because if we put a panel here, hear me out. If we put a piece of material, if you put a panel here, okay, like just flush here or whatever, okay? Yeah. Coming back, then we can put our column here, back a little bit, right? That way this column is only maybe 8 inches. Make that one 8 inches so it's not a problem here. Cut everything back. And when we put the column here, maybe we can put a filler back in behind. Yeah, get everything else done.
You guys here tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay,
come.
I'm here tomorrow too.
I'm gonna come here tomorrow. Let's focus on this tomorrow. So did I tell you outside there's gonna be madness as soon as I walked in? I almost got jumped by the cabinet installers. Anyways, they've got some questions, some meaning tons of questions. They've done well. The kitchen looks phenomenal. I am so excited.
First problem, the island was not centered, so we had to move the island over. Well, they'd already drilled the holes in the sink cabinet where the plumbing comes through the floor. Came up with a solution for them for that, and I'm happy with it. They moved it. They took up an extra panel they had. They drilled it nicely, put it over top. It actually looks really nice in there. So that island is centered. There's some confusion about the details of the wine rack. Because I'm doing the wine rack myself after the fact, everything around it has to be done perfectly. And one of the panels is a bit too short, so I gotta come up with a solution for that. And I'm gonna do that because that's what I love to do. So being here to answer all those questions means, you know, minimizing delays. I took a look around the rest of the house and there's a lot happening. In the garage here, first coat of mud is in, fantastic. Get that second coat of mud in and then I can start working on getting the floors done, the tiles in place. The rest of the house, speaking of tiles, the powder room looks phenomenal. So Rob's guys from Interstone got that tile in and it looks fantastic. And then upstairs, the painters are making some great headway. So a lot of the painting is done, the bedrooms are almost done. They're starting to install the wallpaper in the bathrooms. That looks fantastic. And that's one thing that was really my request. Get the wallpaper on, and then we'll install the cabinets and the countertops. I just like that finishing detail. I don't want to cut the wallpaper to the countertop and then have it peel up after time. So it's nicer to put the cabinets in after. Flip side to that is you gotta be careful when you're installing stuff so you don't damage that beautiful wallpaper. So I'll be able to manage that. I'll be here to make sure that doesn't happen. A lot of these guys are gonna hate me by the end of this, but hopefully when they see the finished product, they're gonna love me because it's gonna look spectacular. Good. Looks good. It's coming together. So like I mentioned earlier, I think I'm getting a little bit in the way here. So I've got to take my time, back off a little, but just be around so I can answer questions. There are so many questions and I want to be there to answer them because if I don't, things happen and they don't happen the way that I want, and then I've got to redo them later, which is something I want to avoid. Outside, lots happening. The parquet is almost done. I just love the way it's taking shape. And when you really take a look at that entire space, you can see the added value it brings to this entire subdivision. It looks amazing. They're moving along with the exterior. The garage is getting sanded. Next steps are going to be to prime and paint that garage and then work at doing the floors, the epoxy coating, and also the tile work that's going to happen in there. Inside, they started delivering the Wolf Sub-Zero appliances. Our freezer and our fridge are back here, massive, lots of storage space. We've got our cooktops, we've got our wall oven, our dishwasher, everything is here. So Appliance Canada delivered everything today. Still a little bit of work to do on the kitchen itself, but then they're gonna start installing those appliances. What's more important is that Rocco is installing all the switches and receptacles. So all the receptacles are getting installed in the baseboards. The night lights, we've got those night lights going in. I'll talk about those later and point them out to you, but more importantly, our Lutron Radio Raw 2 system is going in. So I'm working with Rocco hand in hand to tell him where the keypads are going, where the dimmers and switches are going, and he's gonna install them, and then I'm gonna work with Clive to program the system later. Hey guys, it's a new day. Welcome back to the site. You can see it's a disaster. This stuff drives me crazy. I come here at nights and I clean up, actually. I don't tell anybody. So anyhow, lots happening today again. Things are just kind of moving along. Today, Rocco is installing a lot of the electrical. All the switches, plugs, all that stuff's going in. Few surprises with a few plugs being covered by drywall. The drywallers go so fast on these houses, they miss a few cutouts. And then good thing, I actually did a video walkthrough when it was all roughed in. I walked around with my phone and I videoed every room on the phone. I refer back to that and then we can spot exactly where the plugs were that got covered. And that's a great tip. Make sure you do that at rough-in stage. It's invaluable at the end. Rocco is actually installing all these Radio Raw 2 switches from Lutron. So we've got dimmers, switches going in, we've got keypads going in, and the way we designed the system, if you remember back to the talk with Clive, we put all the switches in the closet, so we don't have a lot of things on the walls here. We have a keypad here, we have a keypad in the dining room, we have a keypad in the kitchen family room area, but all the switches that actually take a signal from those keypads and operate all the lights are hidden inside the closets because you don't need to touch them anymore. So let's talk about a few other things. A little bit of detail here and there that I'm particular about. Things like the shoe mold. So the shoe mold went in this room, which is that little piece of trim at the bottom. And I came in after the fact. I asked Mario if I could do this. I came in, I pulled the shoe mold off. I did it myself, returned it back into the wall nicely. I love these little details. I'm particular about that. But I also understand that these guys are on a timeline. They got to do things quickly, so they just kind of do a back miter on it and angle it into the wall, which doesn't look great. So pulled off a few pieces, fixed them in this room and in the powder room, two areas that really matter. So in the basement, there's still a lot that's to happen. The floors still have to go in. There was a shortage of the material. That's coming, and then they're going to start gluing that floor down onto this concrete. Behind me, the theater, you'll notice, is out of commission. I can't really do much in there because we've got all the doors piled up. They got sprayed in the gym area. They were brought in here. We actually put them with spikes on 4x4s at the ends, so they're layered nicely, they're dried nicely, they look fantastic. And here's a big tip. When you're done your drywall and it's sanded and it's primed, get the HVAC system up and running, because that gives you a conditioned space. That's when you should really do the trim work, because you don't have any fluctuations in humidity after. You don't have problems with door swelling or trim work cracking. Well, today's been a crazy day. I can't believe how much has happened, and I am exhausted just filling in here, there, running around answering questions. So they installed the Carrier steam humidifier. It mounts right here, injects steam from here into the furnace. That's the main duct rod. So it picks up that steam and drives it to the entire house. Then we've got the Carrier UV lights that are going right here. Two UV lights right on top of the air conditioning coil. The air conditioning coil, because it gets condensation on it and it gets wet, it will tend to grow mold over time. Well, that UV light will kill all that mold, and it'll kill any spores that get airborne and go through the air into the rest of the house, so it really sanitizes the air nicely. Everything else is coming together nicely. There's a few odds and ends to do here. Over here, let me show you the fin. We've got the fin in place here. This is our water control system. So the fin falls into the line coming into the house. All the water goes through there. The fin literally tests the pressure and the flow hundreds of times a second, and it will sense whether there is a potential leak happening, whether a pipe bursts, whether a pipe is about to freeze, because it'll sense the pressure increase in the pipes, and it will notify you on your phone, and if you don't respond, it'll shut the whole house down. This is priceless. It will prevent major catastrophes. All the alarm system and the cameras are all here. They're going to get set up here. Our theater is behind this wall, so that's coming together nicely. You'll see these wires here and these pipes. These are the subwoofers that are going to drive that low bass into that space. One here, one at the end, and then all the drivers for the LED lights inside the theater are going to be up here. They go in the wall and into that theater space. So this room's coming together nice. Next here is going to be, after they do the hardwood down here, I'm going to do a nice vinyl floor in this furnace room. We've got the vanities installed. So the basement vanity is in place and it's floating off the wall. It's a big vanity and it's heavy, so we made sure it's mounted on the baseboard. So it's supported on the bottom on the baseboard and then screwed into the wall. When the framing was being done, I walked around and I made sure there was good backing inside all these walls. So I made sure there was 2x8s on the side here, screwed to all the studs. And that way when we came now and mounted that vanity in place, we had plenty of blocking in there to support it in place, so it's in there nicely. It's gonna get wrapped with stone. Let's go upstairs and I'll show you a couple of things that are happening up there, because it's looking fantastic. So in the kitchen and family room area, we're at a bit of a stalemate. Downsview has to come back and adjust some of these cabinets. I'll show you those in a second. But over here, the guys have put in the ecobee thermostat. I love this thing because it will have sensors, and I'm going to add to those sensors. I'm going to put sensors throughout the entire house so that every room has a sensor, and this thing will be able to register those temperatures and then balance the settings in the house. So let's squeeze through here. Because, oh, speaking of Downsview, let's talk about Downsview. These cabinets here have to be adjusted. Why? Because I specifically wanted these columns to sit out of the cabinets. The reason being, when the countertop comes out, I want it to end on the column. I didn't want it to protrude out. So let's come down here and see what's happened here. Over here, we can see that when they installed, this one here is flush to the front of the cabinet here, so this countertop will sit proud. I'm not gonna be happy with that. They're gonna come back, pull those cabinets out, pull all this out forward so that this sits proud of that and our countertop sits in nicely. These are little details that if you don't plan for them, they're just not gonna come together in the end. But let's look at something spectacular. The dining room is looking stunning. So we've got that wallpaper on, and look at this thing. It looks like a hand-stitched fabric on the wall. So we've got that beaded detail on the bottom, a really simple chair rail, and then above that we've got this fabric wallpaper that really just pulls everything together, and it just looks fantastic. I don't know what else to say. Let's go look at the rest. One of the systems we haven't touched on was the alarm system. Now, there's been a lot of thought that's put into this, and there's a lot to think about when you're incorporating an alarm system. You can have a basic system, but I wanted something more robust and more elaborate, and I'll tell you why. We have our motion sensors in the house. We got our door and window contacts, and that's fantastic. Any door or any window that's accessible in any way with a ladder or anything, you want to make sure you have contacts on. Now, Kelly behind me from APCO Securities, I've been working with these guys for almost 30 years. He's putting the system in, we've designed it. Right now, he's putting glass break sensors in, and glass break sensors are fantastic. So you want multiple layers of protection. So motion sensors are one, but a glass break sensor will pick up the sound of that glass breaking, and it'll activate the alarm right away before people even get into the space. And the idea is once the alarm is going, they get scared and they take off, and that's it. You don't want people in your house. So in addition to that, I'm including carbon monoxide and smoke alarms on the alarm system. Now, Rocco's put carbon monoxide and smoke alarm combination units on every floor because that's code and you have to have them, and they're wired up to 110 volts, and that's great. But in addition to that, Kelly is installing the low voltage ones that are integrated into the alarm system. If you're sleeping, if you're not home, and you have a problem, it notifies the monitoring station, and then someone comes out to help. So the next thing is keypads. You want to have keypads at your points of entry, so the front door, the garage door, which is used all the time, and also in the master bedroom. I want to have one there. If there's an alarm, you wake up in the middle of the night, or simply by looking at the alarm panel and you see that green light, you know that the house is secured and you can activate the alarm. You don't need to worry about what's open, what's not open, and things like that. And then lastly, because it's connected to a phone line, that's what it uses to dial the monitoring station. That phone line can go down, and that phone line can be cut on the outside of the house. So I'm including a GSM unit, which is a cellular dial-up unit. Because the antenna is in the walk-in closet in the principal bedroom upstairs. That antenna works on a cellular network, and it also dials out that way. So if the phone lines are cut, you also have a line to the monitoring station that way. On the top floor, let's start with the laundry room. This small laundry room is coming together beautifully. So our sink's in, our faucet is in place. This Hansgrohe faucet looks great. Simple with a pull-out, and that's really practical for this space. But what really is spectacular about this area are these the wash towers from LG. They are space saving, and you know what, frankly, I'm glad somebody did this. I'm tired of stacking two units on top of each other. We've got these units here. When you turn them on, the control panel's in the middle for both. You don't have two separate units. They're solid, they're sturdy, and they're spectacular. So those fit in so nicely, and I love the flat front on them, and they really set off the space and make it really usable and practical. Let's look at some of the other vanities in this room. Sorry, Pete. This is that piece of furniture that I was talking about before, and look at how this has come together. This is gorgeous. Look at the beaded detail on the front. This is solid oak, and it's stained with this gorgeous light stain, and then we had these rods made, and these rods sit on the bottom, and I've got a whole bunch of them. They'll go across the bottom so you can put baskets in here. The wallpaper's done in here, vanity's in place. This was a challenge to put in. It took a lot of time, but it's in nicely. And then on that back wall, this countertop's gonna go against the wall and right up as a frame around there, and that mirror is going to float in the middle. And if you remember, we've got these two pendants that'll come in and they'll just give you that depth and that light that's going to round things off nicely. And then lastly, we've got that last vanity here in that shared bathroom. I'm going to show you that one because a couple of things to note here. In a bathroom like this, first off, the wallpaper is great, but I want to show a couple of things here. We've got these angled ceiling details here. So when it comes to those, people always get stumped. What do I do? And in fact, here, the painter had painted them and the wallpaper installer just papered around them. So I said, no, 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 those have to be papered because now they disappear and they become part of the walls, and that's important. Our vanity goes in, our drawer fronts are not here yet, but we're gonna have painted drawer fronts here with the nice handles that are cut out of them. You'll see those when they're in. I've left this one loose, and there's a reason for that. The countertop goes around and waterfalls on both sides. So because we want to waterfall it here, I've left it loose, so when they install the waterfall, they install this first, I cut that baseboard, they install the top, they do this, I cut that baseboard, and then we'll push it against the wall on the left to get a nice tight joint there, and then we'll screw it in place. Our receptacles are on the side here. I love that all the time because I don't like to see them around. And then we're going to have that mirror going around with that nightlight built into it. So that mirror is going to sit off the wall, and that nightlight, which is going to be an LED ribbon, is going to be all the way around, and the light's going to glow outwards. This wire comes out down here, and then I've got a receptacle here that is operated by a switch, so you can turn it on and have that nightlight running all night if you want. I may actually put it on a timer or motion sensor, I don't know yet, but that's something I'll decide. But use so little electricity to have it running all night is not a big deal. So it's been a crazy busy day, but as you can see, things are happening and it's coming together.